As citizens, we entrust our leaders with the responsibility to serve our communities and nations. But what happens when leaders fail to deliver? And how can we ensure that they are answerable to the people? Joining us right here in the studio is Sifo Sebastian Evwoman, an award-winning journalist from Edo State, based in Abuja, but he's right here with us. A very good evening to you, sir.
Good evening to you too, sir. Thank you very much.
Very good for you to be here. That's amazing. And there's a lot of questions that we have to get into tonight. But firstly, what mechanisms can be put in place to ensure that political leaders are held accountable for their actions? I know that Search just said before we heard that the bill was being passed as the NEOC. That's also the National Electoral Offences Commission, that was passed to unburden INEC. So we see that that's also a step in some kind of direction. But can you let us know what what mechanisms can actually be put in place?
Yeah, in addition to the ones you have mentioned,
yes,
there is also the FOI Act passed at the federal level. For example, I'm aware that in Edo State here, it has not been domesticated. So I think as a very, very important ingredient of democracy, I encourage the state government to look into the possibility of domesticating FOI Act so that it will enhance accountability and transparency. If you look at the way the government is going ahead in the past 7 months with its plan, you will agree with me that we have seen a lot more accountability and transparency in governance. We have seen less rhetorics. We have seen more actions. Of course, transparency and accountability, they speak towards actions. That is probably why Stephen Covey, the popular author of 7 Habits of Most Effective People, has described accountability as a process of responsibility. In other words, it generates actions than talking. And we have come through a government that talked mostly, pride itself as technocrats and all those things, but there were really little actions to show for those things in an open way, where the ordinary citizen can, relate with the government. They know what they are doing, because accountability and transparency, they help to promote probity, they help to promote openness, they help to promote integrity, they help to promote trust, they help to promote belief, they help to promote acceptance.
Can we expand on the FOI Act? That is when I say the Freedom of Information. Can you expand on that and how that mechanism itself can help?
Yes, the FOI Act was passed on May 28, 2011. Basically under the government of ex-president Goodluck Jonathan. Now, many states in the country, they are here to domesticate FOI Act. It's just like the Child Rights Act passed at the federal level. Of course, Edo State is at the forefront of Child Rights Act today, after domesticating that very act. They also need to do the same thing for FOI Act. Basically, FOI Act speaks directly to availability and access to information, but based on request. Of course, Section 8 of that Act defines how and when you can request for information, how your request can also be processed. If it is not now processed, you have the power to go to court to request for it. But basically, it will help a system to become more open than being opaque. People will align with the program of that government. They know they can easily defend the government programs and policies when a system has an open system, transparency.
But moving on, how can citizens effectively demand, now minus, of course, the FOI Act and also taking the necessary measures if the information is not getting, what other ways can citizens effectively demand accountability from their leaders? And what role does civil society play in promoting this transparency?
Yes, the civil society, they play a very important role in all these things we are talking about. At least to my understanding, I know that before the last government was voted out of power, there was a move by a body of civil societies, including ANEJ, CSO, Congos in Edo State here. They pressed on the past government to domesticate FOI because it is important. It's like a foundation to that very act you talk about, that how can they press, how can they request, how can they access information. It's not just information. Information doesn't disclose only problems. It also discloses what constitutes programs, policies, everything of a government. If citizens know that things like this are happening, they have better understanding of the entire process. They will appreciate it more. They will also know how to expect and not to expect. They will also know how to ask government officials questions. Government shouldn't be afraid to open up and let citizens know what they are going through or what they are doing or what they have achieved and so on and so forth. I know there was a recent program by Edo State Ministry of Information, I guess early last month or thereabout. They titled it Exposing Achievements of the Okpebholo government. Things like that. It's necessary, more of it. Though I may not agree with the title of that program, exposing instead of unveiling.
Unveiling, yes.
Yes. When I was looking at it from my home in Abuja, I was like, unveiling would have been better. But then it is necessary, things like that.
Let me jump in real quick because we are very pressed for time. But what are the consequences of this lack of transparency? What can you say would happen to a nation?
Election, a lot.
No, a nation, but
a nation, a lot. A lot in the sense that, first and foremost, you can't build trust where there is no transparency and accountability. And you can't build integrity. It's not only about public or government business. It also impacts on private enterprise. Because when you are looking for a contract or you are executing a contract that does not even have to do with government, you will still have to...
All right, sorry to jump in, but what is the way forward? Just in if I say in just a quick second, what do you think is the way to chart a way forward?
Yes, apart from the FOI we talked about, I will expect the government to display, for example, openness in its tender system, contract award system, public procurement system. The government should also create a mechanism for feedback.
All right, thank you so much.
Evaluation and monitoring.
Yes,
it's very important.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much, Sebastian, for availing us.
Thank you very much.
And definitely very well said this evening.
I will always be here when called upon any other time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, so of course we are off to the commercials. You can watch Edo Broadcasting Service on Star Times channel 113 and GoTV channel 141 and terrestrial channel 45 for the latest news and information. Be sure to visit our website at ebsng.com. Subscribe to Edo Broadcasting Service on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and X at EBS Benin. Ahead on EBS tonight, rainstorms destroys over 13 houses and renders over 200 residents homeless across Benin City metropolis. Details of this and other reports right after the break. Good evening.